I'm David Foster, the Executive Director of the BlueGreen Alliance, and I'm delighted to be with all of you this morning at the start of our 7th Good Jobs, Green Jobs Conference. Now, over the years, as we've done these, in many ways, these gatherings to me have told the story of our country's recent politics, the good and the bad. From the economic disaster of 2008-2009 to the bitter disputes over the role of government, charting our economic recovery, to this long, painful slog of the last few years, attempting to solve our chronic unemployment problems and the growing crisis of global warming. And lately, it's also been a tale of two economies. One marked by soaring wealth, we all read about it. The other by stagnation, drift, and growing inequality. To some of our critics, I'm sure that good jobs, green jobs, must seem like a quaint notion. The idea that you can have both good jobs and a clean environment. But look at the alternative. Look at the alternative. Is it really good jobs and a brown environment? Is that really an option? Look at recent events in Charleston, West Virginia, where the rupture of chemical storage tanks at a company called Freedom Industries leaked over 10,000 gallons of toxics into the Elk River. No sooner had that immediate crisis ebbed than Freedom Industries declared bankruptcy, shielding itself and its owners from the liability of any of the problems they'd caused. Is this what they call good jobs in a brown environment? Or is this just a bad hangover of a 19th century way of thinking that somehow we can pollute ourselves into prosperity? Now, the story of Freedom Industries in Charleston, West Virginia, is also a story of the infrastructure that is failing America. And that's the theme of this conference. You know, last year, when we kicked off Repair America, I was surprised to learn that 15% of all the clean drinking water we produce in our country leaks out of the system before it even gets to our kitchen sinks. 15%. Corroded pipes, leaky valves. In some cities, we still use wooden water pipes that were installed in the 19th century. Charleston, West Virginia, it's even worse. 37% of all the clean water produced in that community for drinking is lost in faulty pipes before it ever gets used. And shockingly, what made this recent crisis even worse is that the water pipes that carried that contaminated water into people's homes couldn't be shut off because the pipes themselves were so corroded that they would have collapsed if not for the water pressure that kept the steel in place. Think of that. Now, most of us here in Washington today are not from DC. And from my home in Minneapolis or Leo's home in Pittsburgh or hundreds of other communities around America, Washington today looks like a place where it's impossible to agree on anything. But I don't think that for a minute most Americans want to be so vulnerable to water systems that don't work, transit systems that flood, bridges that collapse from disrepair, or electrical systems that are crashing with increasing frequency. You can't have a 21st century economy with wooden water pipes. And you can't solve a 21st century problem like climate change with the 19th century infrastructure that caused it. So the theme of this year's conference, Protect, Produce, Prosper, sums it all up. We're going to hear from labor, business, and environmental leaders today and tomorrow that if we respond to the challenges to our infrastructure, if we invest in repairing America, we can have all the jobs we so desperately need. All the jobs, 11 million jobs that we need in this country. And we can fix the environmental challenges we face. We can have profitable, responsible companies companies making American products with American labor. We can repair America's bridges and our water pipes and our transit systems with American steel. We can fill our streets with American-made UAW vehicles that are the most fuel efficient on the planet. You know, one lesson that 20th century America taught the world is this: a lot of wealth in a few hands is never going to be as productive as a lot of wealth in a lot of hands. That's the lesson of middle-class nations, and it's the lesson of America's greatest economic growth. We can go down that path again if we choose in every city, in every state, and yes, even here in Washington, D.C., when we go up on the Capitol on February 12th to repair America. We can do it. Thank you.